All right, cool. Let me get started. I will talk to you from two lenses to this afternoon. For one, as a service design and co-creation leader at NCR Corporation. And you can think of NCR as the biggest B2B brand that you've probably only heard of a few times. We're a little bit more prominent now with the new building on the connector right there, right by Georgia Tech. And I help bring in customer experience, service design, and co-creation to the front lines of what we do there. And then I also involved with teaching service design at Georgia Tech in the School of Design. Exciting news before we get started. The Service Design Network, an international network that's been in existence for over a decade, now has an official Atlanta chapter. So if you're interested in learning more about what Joe and John talked about earlier and what I'm talking about today, the Service Design Network is the place to go. Also, in the spring, in the last weekend of March, we have the Global Service Jam Atlanta edition. Think of it as a 48-hour hackathon of service design and customer experience work. It's a blast, and this year we're actually adding an expert track, so that should be really fantastic. How times have changed for service design. When I talked about service design a few years back, I would have to translate it, all the activities that are necessary to create better customer experiences. Today, when you search for service design on LinkedIn, 4,500 service design open positions come up and related. Amazing. We are also seeing really a growth in the international community and then a solidification of the tools and methods. When my colleagues talk about service design and design thinking, I see this image quite a bit, an iceberg. There's much more under the surface. You've seen this image. And it strikes me that this image maybe is a little bit lacking, right? It's not the most hospitable of environments. You can sort of slide off, nothing really grows on it, and eventually it does melt. When we think about service design and customer experience, isn't the much better picture really a team of gardeners that is thriving, that is caring for a thriving tree and caring for it, pruning it, and helping it grow and be successful out there. The root network carrying up the nutrients, the solid stem, and then the crown really not only being beautiful and healthy, but through photosynthesis actually creating new life and enabling new life with insects and birds on the tree. Isn't that what we want in service design? We think about these different stakeholder groups, right? And these are the usual suspects that I have up here. But doing service design at scale is a much more involved affair. And really what we're seeing here is at NCR that we have to involve our B2B customer, that we have to involve the ecosystem partner, and then a number of internal customers actually. And when we do service design at that scale, it requires a completely different set of methods and tools. So there's a lot of excitement at NCR doing service design thinking, and then the maturity is increasing day by day. What I've learned is that even with the most excitement coming into a project session, and you bring in all these tools, you're ready to go, and you're talking about it, it doesn't always catch on. We've changed our approach in my group and said, okay, how about we don't talk about service design thinking at first, but we do it. More doing, less talking. So what we do now, and that's a little bit different than Joe's approach earlier, we actually immerse our teams into a design thinking experience. 90 minutes, a half day, a full day, without even telling them. And then debriefing, and then talking about how that experience was, and then giving them the tools and methods to them being able to take it into their teams and projects. So that's the much more successful approach. I want to switch over to Georgia Tech for a second. And here what we're doing is amazing. This is the title of my course now. It's Service Design, Brand, and Value Creation. And we redesigned the curriculum just last year because it was really clear to us that successful service experiences can't exist without thinking about the brand, thinking about the different methods of value creation. And these very, very smart students, they are piecing these three elements together and learning through project-based learning and learning through immersion with people out there in the industry. What we have this semester is actually the students are looking at the arts and culture experience on the Beltline, on the Atlanta Beltline, which, by the way, originated out of Georgia Tech some 20 years ago. And it's sort of fun to come back and saying, hey, how can we activate this amazing piece of infrastructure through a service design, through an experience lens? And by the way, if anybody's interested in doing a project with my students, they are super bright, and we're looking for somebody in 2019. So keep that in mind. What I'm doing there is an integration of these three elements: service design, brand, and value creation, and then the immersion with industry partners out there, and the students are learning so much. It's really, really cool. What's common between the work at NCR and the work at Georgia Tech is that I'm creating a sensitivity for this, for the need to design the process itself. Depending on the challenge at hand, it may be a root cause analysis. It may be just some pruning around the stem. It may be an adjacency where we're looking at to plant the next tree. It may just be doing something in the ground. It may just be complete blue sky thinking. And what I encounter quite frequently is that project partners may have the expectation that it's sort of a one-size-fits-all process approach. And we've seen the double diamond floating around tonight, so I'm not going to go there. But there are some commonalities, but what I found in my practice is that it requires a custom approach to almost any challenge that you're facing. So I wanted to share just high level 4 tools that we're developing to do service design at scale and doing service design at a company of a global footprint where not everybody can be in the same room at the same time. We all love workshops. We all love sticky notes on the wall. What we're doing now more often than not is actually going digital first, using tools like Mural or real-time boards, and meeting over far distances. And there's a rich body of learnings from it. There's a time maximum for that, 90 minutes, 2 hours, and you have to pass out things in a different way. But it's actually quite effective to do these design thinking workshops in these digital first tools on the screen. The execution blueprint, we find a need to actually connect the traditional blueprint with a two-way street, with a tech execution as well as a marketing and brand execution. And we've built a database-centric tool to do just that. And we're looking at the experience beyond the screen edge, right? In the UX community, we're talking about the wireframe, the click-through prototypes. What we've developed is a 4D wireframe that adds space and time, and now you can be intentional about building experiences across multiple touch points and still show it in a 3D space, in a 3D way. And last but not least, we're looking at an experience-first way to bring together the global requirement input. So, like the speaker said before me, it's all about a culture of service design. It's all about really, it's not just about the tools and methods, it's about how we think about it and how we bring it all together. New frontiers from the international community in service design, really obviously staying human-centered, but IoT or experience economies, and then AI are the new frontiers. And it's really, really interesting to think about what is required for the designer when artificial intelligence actually starts to behave independently of our direct sphere of control. So I want to leave you with 2 questions this afternoon. One, if it's really about the culture of service design, isn't it that we not only have to be designers and facilitators, but more so actually coaches, shepherding people through the process? And isn't it, if artificial intelligence is playing more and more of a role, that we need to think about actors differently? And Sandra Kozubov, if he's in the audience still, he's recently published a thought on this idea of bringing technology actually into the equation as an actor in the service system, that we start thinking about technology in a very different way, almost just as we think about humans in the equation. That's my thoughts for you this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the conference.